Welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in Mendham. In the vicinity of, I have to be just somewhere close. Something like that. Anyway, as with life, just every week seems like, boy, that was a tough week. Oh, that was just all seems like more work than it should be. Anyway, so subjects, yes, we're moving into the political, whatever it is, day. And so as I cast my absentee ballot, that no doubt will be thrown in the garbage by some political hack, and they won't tell me about it. And so the only way I can find out whether my vote actually counted is I have to find out what all the absentee ballots were. And wait a minute, that's right, I can't do it unless I wrote in something. So you have to write in a name somehow to find out whether your vote counted. I mean, it's just so bogus, the system. Just, how do I appeal with an absentee ballot? You can't appeal. See, they have this great system, right, where somebody can challenge your vote and say, like, your signature is crooked or something. And they don't let the person who voted know that their vote was thrown in the garbage, so they can't argue and say, no, it's my signature, you fucking idiot. And so they can just throw out any vote they want to. I mean, it just, So, I mean, I found this out a few years ago. I actually did a write-in vote. And then I checked to see, because then you can see if your vote was counted, because the write-in vote will show up. They have to include those. And I'm saying Bugs Bunny's not, I voted for Bugs Bunny, I think, something Daffy Duck, something like that. And it wasn't on the list. And I was like, well, how come Daffy Duck isn't on the list? And so then they looked into it. Oh, because your vote was thrown out. Why? Your signature didn't match. Anyway, it just, it's horse shit. Anyway, America. So, it's just one anecdotal, but I just mean, it's just so corrupt and so broken. And there's no hope in fixing it because nobody wants accountability. Nobody wants to, we ought to reinstitute the guillotine. I mean, we ought to have one in every public square, just to let everybody know, we're not fucking around anymore. Fuck this shit. And, it's for politicians. We ought to have one. Politicians only. And, take a few heads. They won't run anymore. Okay, all the liars and the crooks won't run anymore if you cut a few of their heads off. So anyway, that doesn't matter. But people are just as stupid, so you should cut their heads off too. The voters are morons. So, I wanted to talk about the origins of existence, in a sense, about evolution, and how what we're designed to be and all that kind of crap. But it is politics, and there is such it is so stupid. Like, I mean, I voted, and it was like I hated the people I had to vote for. I mean, I actually despised them. But they're better than the choice. The choice is so bad. It's just so awful a choice. And you're saying, how can anybody be satisfied with a system where you're not just holding your nose? I mean, you just want to kill yourself rather than vote for either one of these cunts. And, how to get this bad? I mean, how, it's just so bad. And and you got people like Fake Sagan with American flags, and they're, I'm a gun-toting, hamburger-eating American, like he's proud of something, just amazing. And then you got the idiot Piro who's still talking about, all these, well, why are you arguing with me? Aren't my completely irrational philosophical positions? Why are you finding that a problem? My complete irrationality. We have unlimited resources, money. We can just give it all to welfare whores and foreigners, and everything will be just fine. I mean, it's just insanely stupid. But he's for, the rich also getting rich. So, it's just like he thinks it just comes from nowhere. It's just magic. No one has to be productive, and no one has to be coerced into working. We'll all just voluntarily be insanely productive. No, we won't do that voluntarily. Communes never work because only, out of 100 people, 2 people do all the work, and everybody else just sits around and smokes pot. Can't work because you got to have a guillotine somewhere. Because it's just the way it is. You got to force people to be decent. They're not decent by nature. They're conniving, scheming, weaseling cheaters, kind of by nature. We're rats by nature. We'll steal whatever we can get and pile it all up in our little nut hatch, and that's what we are. We're squirrely little, hoarders by nature. Mine. And so why have these illusions that we're going to voluntarily do anything good? Because we're not. And then this illusion, like I said, it's they make it into this thing like you're saying, okay, you've got to decide. You're either a racist or you're not a racist. Because if you're somehow against importing the broken people from around the world and paying all this huge amount of money to repair their brokenness, and you can't even repair it, right? You just settle for its complete dysfunction, and that somehow you're going to win. Somehow you're going to win by importing waste and problems. These people aren't going to come here and solve your problems. They're going to make problems. And that's the statistical facts. I mean, it's all written all over the statistics. And certainly the immigrants aren't doing at least what they used to do, which is at least the second generation, spoke the language and was sort of playing ball and saying, yes, I'm an American, I'm a Red Sox fan, and blah, blah, blah. They're not even doing that anymore. Now they're just huddling up in little nation cities, and they're just saying, screw you, I don't have to speak English, I don't have to do any of this crap. I could just import my country into your country, basically invade you right from the inside. You're just, wouldn't it be great if you could fight a war like that, where you could just create a little base right in the middle of the other country? Like sort of us in Saudi Arabia, I guess. It just makes it so convenient to be able to fight a war where you're inside the country already, and you can just, fight the war from inside their own country. And it's, sort of just what's happening. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, and it certainly doesn't make any sense to call these people call themselves progressives, that they believe in infinite importation of the world's problems, and will just borrow the money from the rich. Yeah. How does that make sense as a liberal position? And destroy wage base, of course, because, we already know that the big difference, he fakes they can make a point like, well, so much, what's changed since the 80s when everybody loved immigration? Well, I don't think everybody did. I mean, everybody wasn't singing whatever, some dopey song about, bring us your huddled retards. So not everybody was in love with immigration back then. And certainly liberals weren't, because they saw it as a threat, rationally. So the other thing Fake Sagan was defending is like the Cold War and how we defeated communism, as if that was a symbolism of something like defeating merit pay. It really wasn't. It was, I mean, it really was, in a sense, defeating any notions of workers are more important than rich people. And, they're the most valuable thing in the society, are productive workers. And everybody else, the rich, just welfare, and the poor, just welfare. And they're not giving you anything; they're taken. They're parasites on the productive. And so now there's so few people who are productive that I guess now it's just welfare whores on one side and welfare whores on the other side. The rich and the poor welfare whores are in competition to, get more welfare. And there's no the productive ideology is just out of luck, because it's so difficult to even be productive. Now that machines are competing with us and everything else, it's such a tough game, and there's so many people, and there's just no way to spread this. The economics just don't make any sense, because the generation that's dying was much more productive than the generation that's replacing it. It had much more capacity to control buying power, and these are real problems. This whole idea of how human labor has become less and less valuable, and nobody's paying any attention. So it's sort of like the whole greenhouse thing and everything else. It's just one problem that both sides just ignore and to keep pretending it's not a real problem when it's the problem. So yes, I don't know how much of a rag it really deserves, but I mean, just all the ways you could talk about what's good about immigration. So these people who are defending it are expecting me to see it. Okay, I'm supposed to see this obvious, huge, great thing about importing people who don't have my habits. Well, first, they don't look like me. Now, how important should that be? It is a matter of taste, comfort. It's kind of fun not to be distracted by the fact that you're interacting with people who are completely different than you are. I mean, it is simpler, right? So people who like things simple, is that being a racist because you just like things simple? You like not being bothered, having to worry about all of this ethnicity stuff and all this, well, will my dick fit in her vagina, and will they, it's like having a bunch of breeds of dogs or something. Wouldn't it be simpler for the dog, right? If you just, yeah, you're a dog, I'm a dog, we're all dogs, simple, right? You don't want to have, like, some dogs are giant, some dogs are midgets, just makes things confusing. Unnecessarily awkward. When your butts, sniffing butts and doing different things, if the butts are in different places and, different sizes, and, just makes things more complicated. Alright, so I could just say, yeah, okay, I sort of have some of that. I like things simple, I don't like it complicated. So diversity just doesn't do anything for me on that level. I just find it irritating, not comforting in some way. It doesn't. So I'm just saying, you're saying it should be appealing somehow. Somehow I should want to eat tacos, or somehow I should want something that they're bringing. Like somehow they're bringing something to me, something they're handing me, and saying, here's my foreign contribution to your existence. And they're basically saying, I have to want that, or I have to like that. It's like modern art or something. Like, don't I have a right to say, I don't really have any use for any of it? I mean, even if there was a couple of things that were good, I'd rather just throw it all out, because there's so much of it, it's a waste of time. It's just garbage. Colossal, absolutely, fantastically, insanely garbage. Just wasting space in the perfectly good. You make the museum a lot smaller, because there's only 10% of it that's art anymore. All right, so on this little personal level, I don't see any value. Now, Puro says, I like it. I like foreigners. I like foreign food. I like foreign stuff. I like doing foreign things. And he's sort of implying that somehow I'm not allowed to say, no, I don't like it. Somehow that makes me broken somehow. I don't see any logical reason why it makes me broken. Just as I'm not going to accuse him of being broken because he's perfectly comfortable, screwing cats, or whatever. He has no preferences and no limitations to how bizarre or different people can be. And we haven't even really got into habits, right? So now when we start to get into habits, then I can start making, I think, a reasoned argument that you're not only wrong to sit there and tell me I'm a racist if I don't like other people's habits. I think you're just freaking wrong, because their habits suck. A lot of these poor people, a lot of these immigrants, have shitty habits. I mean, they're just really bad. Like, they don't like to keep up the house, and they like to paint it bizarre, insanely stupid colors, and then they drive around with no mufflers on purpose. You know, they like to make noise just for no good reason. Like, they love making noise for some reason. And you're going to tell me I'm supposed to find that enjoyable? Like, I need human leaf blowers walking around? What do I need those for? Leaf blowers are obnoxious. You know, by definition. I mean, that's just rational. That's not a racism. That's just rationalism. You know, to say, you know, these people have crappy habits. You know, they come from a place where, you know, they just don't give a shit. They live on garbage piles. They have a certain routine, and they want to have the same routine here. And that's clearly part of this equation. You know, they don't come here and say, I want to behave like you. I want to live like you. I want to smell like you. I want to look like you. No, they don't want to do any of that. They want to be them here. You know, and, you know, I said it before, I mean, I would obviously, if I went to China and say I got deported to China or something, and the Chinese were nice enough to take me, let's say, I'd feel a real obligation not to be offensive, right? I mean, not to do something, you know, that's totally wrong, you know, to offend their way of life and their what they consider to be important. And I'd be really, you know, it would be important to me to find out what these things that I shouldn't be doing, like I should put a muffler on my car or whatever the things are that I'm supposed to do, you know, to be civilized by Chinese standards. And so there's nothing wrong with me saying, hey, if other people are going to come here, they'll have that same kind of feeling inside. Like, it'd be kind of embarrassing and humiliating to be offensive to the natives, you know, and you don't see any of that. These immigrants think they own the place. The vast majority of them seem to have no humility and no obligation to pay any respect whatsoever to any American tradition, the tradition of the culture. Even if these traditions suck, like I said, Chinese probably do lots of things that I would find incredibly irritating in terms of the waste of it, the stupidity of it. But my obligation would be to do that in some kind of political forum or in some other way to say, hey, you know, let's get modern, you know. But I don't do it on the street, and I don't do it in their face, you know. So it's just a matter of rudeness. So Piro is just basically defending, you know, rude people. It's okay to be rude because that's what they're doing. They're not really, they don't give a crap about being Americans. They give a crap about just getting as much as they can. They come here on purpose to take advantage of our healthcare system, you know, or whatever, you know, the fact that we have a system. They don't have one. So they come here and they just want to take advantage of this one. And he says that's okay. That's a good enough reason to come here. And I don't think it's nearly a good enough reason. So, I mean, you know, I'm a racist because I don't think that's a good enough reason? No, that's stupid. So then there's the end game, which is what's the ultimate result of this? Now, they always go back to some traditional thing like, well, look at how, you know, valuable the Italians and the Irish were as immigrants. And look how well that turned out. But look how badly it turned out for the North American Indians. Okay, so immigration didn't do them too good. So there's lots of historical examples where immigration was a disaster to the native population. I mean, they just got wiped out. And you could argue that the Irish and the, you know, even though the Irish spoke English already, so that made it sort of easy. And the Italians really got beat up. They had a hard time. They had to struggle. And but what did they struggle to do? They became Americans. Okay, we didn't all become Italians, did we? You know, besides having some TV shows that kind of glorify mafias and stuff, what you know, we didn't become Italians. We didn't have to. We don't have Italian language things all over the place. We didn't put Italian street signs up. We didn't do any of that crap. They obviously didn't take us over. And every sign says forget it. We're losing this war. This immigration, we're losing. Our identity is going down, and some other form of mutt is going to rise as the phoenix. You know, this America is going to burn down, and what's going to rise out of here isn't going to be the same thing. And I think by every definition, it can be argued it won't be close to a better thing. There's just nothing better in the ideology of the people coming here. They're religious and stupid. They're not coming here to social engineer. They're not even coming here like, if I went to China, I might argue that I was better educated than, you know, most of the people, and that I might have some understanding of social engineering, social process, and I might have some valuable contribution to make in terms of you know, politics and creating systems of to make things work better. The immigrants coming here aren't bringing any of those skills. They're coming from a place of a complete failure, not success. They don't even have any idea what success looks like, and they have no notion of what makes it. They think making kids makes success. Just have as many frickin' kids as possible and take over the world. There, you win. Civilization? No, that's unnecessary. You know, one of your kids might win the lottery. There, that's a good enough reason to have 20 of them. Yeah, I mean, it's just so bad and stupid to say you're not going to try to preserve your civilization. So again, I'm just saying, if you're going to have a civilization, you have to defend it, and it requires people to work on it. And working on it doesn't mean you come up with these simplistic answers for problems like, oh, let's just borrow the money. You know, that ain't going to do it. Trickle down theories or something. Make the rich richer, and somehow that'll do us all some good somehow. You know, it's just completely stupid. So that's another thing, you know, fake saying, what's different between then and now? Well, the difference is the rich are like 40 times richer, and the working man is 40 times poorer. You know, that's probably a good difference. Huge difference. More like double and double. I mean, you know, workers getting paid half as much, and the rich are twice as rich, or more. And all inherited, of course, mostly. No real productivity required. Nobody gets rich doing something incredibly great for humanity. Alright? No, they come up with a scheme. Like Bill Gates rents an operating system to IBM. Comes up with a gimmick. It's a gimmick. He didn't make computers. He didn't make computers better. He didn't do any of that shit. He just forced all of us to pay a lot more for the technology. And same with all these other assholes with their great innovations. They just turn into mechanisms to suck our blood and pretend they're doing us a favor. So let's see. So I don't want to really switch the subject. So I'm just saying that, you know, it's an honest point. These people are saying, okay, you're a racist. That's going to be the only reason why you're against immigration. Okay, I'm saying, no, I'm against this idea that we have unlimited resources to take care of all the sick people and all the poor people in the world. Because, no, we can't even take care of the people here who don't have jobs and are dysfunctional or broken or psychotic or damaged in some way. We just throw them on the street. We don't even have things like mental hospitals or something, except for the criminally insane. But for the, I'm not a threat to you, but I'm only a threat to myself, those people we just say, eat garbage. Okay, just, you're fucked. We're not even taking care of problems here. And you're saying, okay, let's bring in some more problems. So obviously that doesn't make any sense. We don't have the, we either don't have the will or the resources, however you want to say it. We don't have either one. We have neither the resources nor the will, quite obviously, to take care of people already in trouble. And you're saying bring in more people with troubles. How can that make any sense? That's a simple question. How can that make any sense? I mean, if you could demonstrate how we were doing a great job of taking care of the broken and the dysfunctional, and that everything was fine. You know, that the slums weren't just raising monsters. You know, that you know, somehow it's a huge success that you know, like the dropout rate in Chicago is like 90%. Somehow that's a huge success. So we can bring in more poor people because look how successful our poor people are. Our poor people do so well they don't even graduate from high school anymore. Yeah, no, that means that we're already having a problem taking care of poor people, and we don't need any more huddled masses, because the huddled masses we already got, we're shitting on them. Okay, they're fucked. They're you know, we're wasting money keeping them in a zombie life. Okay, no real life, just a zombie life, and that's not success. Then the second point would be, well, what is their end product? Do they bring something here that we need? Well, we don't need religion. They're bringing that, and all the crappy politics that comes with that. I mean, anti-abortion shit, voting for Republicans, which means they're voting against the workers' interests. You know, they're voting the same way they vote in their own country, right? They vote for their presidents who are always bazillionaires. And they don't they don't manage to sit there and vote for real people to represent them. So, you know, they've already failed in their own country, and they just want to come here and make the same mess. You know, do more. You know, it's just they're Homer Simpsons. We just don't need them. All right, so there's no real evidence that they come into this country and they make huge contributions to our social infrastructure. There's just no evidence that happens, that they somehow become highly educated and highly productive. No evidence that that's happening at all, that immigration is increasing, you know, the intellectual capital. There's every bit of evidence that it's doing exactly the opposite, which is increasing the proportion of people who don't even know what continent America is part of, you know, and have no clue, you know, very little capacity to add real value to the society. So what's to defend here? There's nothing to defend except beyond some kind of notion that we should be sympathetic. Well, I am sympathetic, but I mean, you can't fight on all the battlefronts at once. You know, you can't spread yourself too thin. And I guess my most urgent point would be is we're already losing American civilization. We're already losing any respect for workers, or any acknowledgement that this is a weird time in human history that we're going through, where we are fairly disposable. That we can't just go by the fact that you have 2 arms and 2 legs and you can do something to be productive, because there aren't those kind of jobs anymore. Machines do it better. And so humans have to be deliberately made into more productive machines. And frankly, that's expensive and unpleasant. You know, not everybody wants that life. The obligation to be skilled and, you know, to perform, you know, to train for the Olympics. Not everybody wants to do that. You know, it doesn't sound like, oh yeah, that's a great life. Some people say, yeah, that's losers. You know, you're an idiot if you waste your time doing that crap. So, you know, yeah, I'm empathetic. I understand, but we can't. Like I say, if we ruin ourselves, ruin the platform that we have, that we can speak from and fight from, then we can't win the war at all. And so I'm just saying, first thing we got to do is make sure we save this civilization, and then we can maybe work on fixing the ones in the rest of the world and trying to explain, you're having too many kids, this is all unsustainable. You know, humans aren't inherently brilliant as a creation, and in a world of 7 billion of them, when we're facing greenhouse crisis and all this other stuff, we can't, you know, we got to stop this. This unsustainable growth is not going to work. And like I said, Pirro has this expectation that people think, you know, because he says so. oh, we could comfortably have 15 million billion people on Earth. We could comfortably. No, we couldn't. Only in your delusions. We can't comfortably have them the way it is now. Like I say, if you think people are comfortable in the slums in Chicago, I don't think they're comfortable. I mean, you know, and all those people coming across the border, if they were comfortable, they wouldn't be coming across the border. So obviously the world is, isn't full of a bunch of comfortable people. It's a bunch of uncomfortable people, and they're mostly uncomfortable because they're overcrowded, and there isn't any functional system to provide, an equitable system of getting for being productive. And instead, people are rewarded for being unproductive. Cheating and stealing is big business now. People can make more money spam phone calling me than doing honest work. And that should scare the hell out of you. But it doesn't. Well, so what else is there to say? I mean, I don't care. If someone wants to call me a racist, it's okay with me. I really don't care. I mean, I've never had any interest in my genetic heritage, and I don't give a fuck about what European country I'm mostly related to and what those people did for the last 500 years or any of that horseshit. I couldn't give a fuck. But I also don't hate being white. I also don't say this breed of dog should disappear. If I'm a Dachshund or I'm a Beagle or I'm a Doberman or I'm a whatever, as long as you're not going to be able to prove that I'm somehow like a pit bull, a menace, why should I think it's a great idea that we make that extinct and we go for this mutt thing instead? I mean, I'm just saying. You're telling me it's somehow an improvement. I'm saying, I don't know, why exactly is it an improvement? I suppose once we're there, once we're all mutts, okay, then it gets a little simpler. At least we've gotten rid of one obstacle to interacting. And the more that we can have the same habits and the same taste and the same everything, then I guess, we'll be better off that way because we'll have less things to fight about. But, that always goes back to the argument that, all you'll end up doing is fighting about smaller and smaller scratches on the paint. We'll play the same game based on, how blue are your eyes, how many millimeters taller are you, or some other kind of bullshit. Because it tends to be a tendency of ours to do that. As you make things more the same, we just we look harder for differences, and we'll find them because they're always findable. You could argue. Well, I could say anyway, whether it's arguable or not, who knows. So is there anything else I want to say on that? So this is a terrible position we're in, right? Because we have these, the Liberal Party, the one that's supposed to be kind of the worker party, has now accepted this idiotic philosophy of destroy the wage base by creating more competition for work in an environment where the number of jobs is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. The jobs don't require high skills. Don't require your parents making very good decisions for you and almost beating you into getting good grades and going to college and doing all that crap. And so if they didn't really push, you're going to be in big fucking trouble. And and so you have this Liberal Party, like I said, that's supposed to be sort of defending the idea that people have some sort of intrinsic value, and we have to create a social system that allows them, enables them, creates every opportunity for them to make a productive contribution. And apparently these liberals think productive contribution is working for the rich, building yachts, putting in marble toilets, stuff that has no infrastructure value, stuff that doesn't make our social system any more productive at all. And then they think that somehow it makes rational sense that you can somehow have an economic system where you make the people who are actually employing people have to pay for all kinds of maternity leaves and sick days and all this other shit, Social Security, workman comp. So you make being employed extremely expensive for an employer. And so you just basically are saying, yes, replace them with a machine as soon as possible, because these employee things are so expensive. And I haven't been to stores, just because sort of an agoraphobic, but I hear they have all this automated stuff now, but I also hear that it's really easy to cheat the computer. When you're at the store, you can just punch in, no, I only bought 3. Lots of ways to cheat. And the funny thing is the stores probably don't care, because it's so much cheaper. So they can afford to lose a ton of merchandise by people cheating the computer, and it's still cheaper than having to pay all that Social Security and all that shit. So, these are real problems. And these daydreaming liberal buttheads, these progressives, they call themselves progressives, and yet they're so stupid. They have a silly Sally kind of perception of how the world works. You can just spend money, you can just borrow money, it's totally irrational. Totally irrational. And, it's just, they're just ruined the Democratic Party. How do you vote for that? How do you vote for a completely irrational, let's just give everything away to everybody for free. Let's just make lots of free lunches, and we won't worry about how to pay for it. How can you make any sense out of that crap? And then you got the other side where they're saying, okay, we pretend we hate the foreigners, that we're not gonna let them ruin your civilization, but they really are not going to stop it. Okay, they could fix it tomorrow. Like I said, employer sanctions and good, secure Social Security numbers, and the problem's solved tomorrow for $1 million. They haven't done that, obviously. The Trumpies didn't fix it in any way whatsoever. They're just wasting a whole bunch of money doing show deportations. So they waste thousands of dollars per immigrant to deport them, which is idiotic, when you got to spend the money stopping them, not deporting them. They turn off the valve, and the only way you turn off the valve is to make it impossible to get a job. Or to bring your kids here to be born in America. Like that's, you come across the border pregnant, have babies here, and say they're American citizens. Well, that's bullshit. So anyway, so the right aren't doing that, and all they're doing is giving everything to the rich. Every single thing they do is a gimmick to make rich people richer, protect rich people from paying any taxes. They got a guarantee, right? They can lose money in the stock market, write it off their taxes. Can you do that? Can you write off your losses? No. And then they call it risk capital. Well, where's the risk in that? Where's the risk in every time I lose, I don't pay any taxes until I made up the money I lost, till I got my money back? How is that risk? There's no risk. Donald Trump's enjoying not paying taxes for 20 years because he lost enough money not to pay taxes for 20 years. Where's the risk? He's going to get all his money back in taxes he didn't have to pay. So he can make lots of profits, and he can just deduct all those profits until he comes up with enough profits to make up for enough tax capital that he didn't pay, enough taxes he didn't pay, to equal the $1 billion he lost. And you can't vote for Republicans, but that's what they're for. They're for just crucify the worker to glorify and protect these rich fuckers. Excuse my French, but so you can't vote for it. How the hell you vote for that and call yourself rational? So I can plead with people that of the two idiots, okay, the Republicans are bigger idiots and bigger crooks and bigger liars and cheaters. Now these delusional hopers and wishers that think they're going to progressively fix something with their magical free lunch, yeah, they're so frickin' stupid, but they're not as evil as these people who are basically setting you up to live in something worse than monarchy. And we're actually worse than monarchy. The proportion of wealth held is worse than it was under the kings of England. Okay? The consolidation of wealth is actually worse than under the noble system in England. It's worse. And people still keep voting for it. You know, give them more. Give them everything. You know, it's just so stupid. And especially if they inherited it. It's like you should give them even a more special pat on the back for a good job. Well done. There's some more merit tax breaks for you for inheriting it. I mean, how do you, as a rational person, vote for that? Come on. And if Republicans did anything good, I mean, I might be able to, I might even say, okay, it's worth it just to get away from these insane, delusional hopers. But they don't do anything good. Not a single thing. They just have they have nothing but evil as policy. Nothing. Everything they pretend they're going to do, you know, that might help workers or regular people, it never happens. And if it does happen, it has a catch-22 tied to it that's, you know, going to take it all back and twice as much. So that's all just such a lie. All right, so yeah, I mean, there's no point in pleading with people, but I'm just saying the unsustainability of the amount of resources we've given to the 0.01%, that is so damaging. The amount of waste the rich create is much worse than the welfare. I mean, as stupid as the welfare seems, like just money thrown away, the money the rich throw away is even bigger. And it looks like it's labor. We got paid to do some kind of work, but it's all work that has no social value. There's no Hoover dams being made. There's no highways. There's no, any kind of infrastructure, any kind of social infrastructure that actually makes our lives better. They don't contribute to anything that has any value to the civilization. They just waste money on personal indulgences, and yes, they pay you a salary to do that. But what they're basically doing is paying you not to be doing some better job, some job that would have social value. And people just don't understand how wasteful that is, that most of the human labor is now being wasted on rackets that make the rich richer, on all this theft of all this marketing and all this chicanery and all this small print and all these spam phone call, all the bullshit. And yeah, okay, people are making a living doing it, but the waste is in the fact that labor is so unproductive. It steals huge percentage of our life is wasted, just answering phone calls that should have never been made. Doing paperwork that shouldn't be necessary. I mean, all of that crap. Junk mail, all of it. Just tons and tons of crap that shouldn't exist. Because we've created this shyster of a system. And that's what the Republicans have given us, is no desire to pay a single attention to the actual consequence. This blind capitalism with this idiotic notion that there's some invisible hand that's going to protect the consumer or the worker, and those hands don't exist. There's no mechanism, and the one hand that was going to be of some value would have been the merit one, where you don't start off with inheriting $1 billion. And they can't even understand how corrosive that is. They can't even force rich people to first do something of merit to become rich. You inherit it, and that's their values. Their values are inheriting good, earning bad. That's the fact of their values, the absolute fact. All right, so I can just say, if you're voting a Republican, you're blowing your face off. you're blowing the future's face off. Because Republicans will do nothing to fix any real problem that affects real people. Never happen. It's not their interest. And yes, the liberals are dumb, stupid as sticks, but generally are good intended, and they just need some education. And fortunately, it's sort of like the Republicans, the mess they were in with the teabaggers. You see, the teabaggers sort of won. I mean, Trump is like the definition of the ultimate teabagger, or whatever those people were, Tea Party loonies. Fringe idiot with no real understanding of the system. And so now the Democrats have a bunch of these teabagger progressives, just fringe idiots who have no understanding of how the system really works at all. Just garbage thoughts, just nonsense rubbish as ideas. And it's going to just really be bad if the pendulum swing is, we go from preposterous idiot on the right to preposterous idiot on the left. And really shouldn't happen that way. But it's going to happen if the people on the left vote for the people on the right and leave the left stuck with just those wackies. Because the rational lefties ran away. So, yeah. Republicans are not going to fix immigration because it doesn't hurt them, it helps them, keeps wages low. They like that. So they're going to they'll make a show of it, but it'll just be for show. And such. So I don't know if there's anything else to yammer on about. So I'll just do the little quick greenhouse thing again, just quickly, just to point out this global warming thing. This is another no-brainer subject. Because I was sort of thinking about it. It's right from the very beginning. This was sort of happening on planet Earth. It's almost an entropy argument. See, it started off very hot and dirty, hostile. And so the first living thing had to live in that hostility. And the mechanism of evolution didn't have built into it any kind of governor, any kind of control mechanisms yet, because it hasn't done any evolution yet. And so the first organisms went totally out of control and completely converted the atmosphere. So they filled it with their shit, which was oxygen. Right? So it's kind of the irony. And so then essentially making it impossible for them to live anymore because they'd made so much shit. And this new competing living thing, this new variety of them, the poo eaters, loved it. They were like, oh, this is perfect for us. Poo everywhere. And so the poo eaters won that first battle. And then there had to be some new battles for the fact that you couldn't just keep reproducing endlessly. There had to be always, you had to, the evolution had to build into the organism some limitations that would make the cell, after it was successfully reproduces a certain number of times, it had to explode or die. There had to be some mechanism to stop this idea that just keep making stuff and you just choke on all the crap you make, that you die again from shitting the place up, and you end up giving the world back to the shit eaters, the poo eaters. So that happened, and through that process you get up to these organisms that start getting more sophisticated in battle armor, and you're having a lot more competition for resources. And through that process of getting more and more sophisticated, they started making more and more carbon compound kind of skeletons and skulls and coverings and shells, and all of that started sinking carbon. So it was still very hot, it could be 100 degrees, 150 degrees, whatever the mean temperature was, probably hot as hell still, while the ocean was just simmering. And so it was already starting to sink carbon. And slowly but surely, as it's sinking carbon, its temperature's getting more moderate, and now the organism's getting more and more diverse. And there was probably a point where you get to these temperatures that are really good for certain processes. And so those processes, respiration, different thermal ways of heating things to get them to the right temperature to create chemistry that would be active enough without being too active. So it became balanced-ish. But the whole time, it's still sinking carbon. All these organisms in the environment they're living in is creating corals and creating calcified and oxidized things, because all this oxygen is now the new thing. That's the thing that makes all this work, is CO2 and oxygen. And you have to have organisms that are eating the CO2 and producing the oxygen, and organisms using the oxygen to create CO2. So you have to have these two kinds of organisms in balance with each other. And as they're doing their thing, they're depositing a bunch of carbon and cooling the planet slowly but surely. So it's sort of logical. You can just look at the world and say, yeah, under the ground there's a whole bunch of calcified stuff, oxidized stuff, and I don't know what you'd call oil and coal. Well, anyway, obviously kind of a more direct carbon sinking, hydrocarbon, so a hydrogen and carbon, instead of just an oxygen oxide, it's more of a hydrocide. Yeah, hydrocide, maybe. So and it just sank all this CO2, which is a major player, the second highest greenhouse gas in terms of creating this radiation circumstance where the radiation comes in and stays in the atmosphere. And CO2 is really important for that, next to water vapor and other things. Yeah, so it's just so obvious that this is what's been happening for hundreds of millions of years, that everything that you can see once you just stick a thing in the ground and pull it out the stuff and look at it, and you'll see a bunch of carbon that's been sunk in the ground, and that a big piece of that we're putting back in the air. And as we do that, we're going to start releasing stuff that's been frozen for 300 million years, stuff that was sunk a long time ago, the methane and all that kind of crap. And so there might be this swing, that might not just be that we'll swing 10 degrees, that once it gets going we could swing 50 degrees Celsius. It could be really shit, which is sort of might be good from my perspective, because it might wipe out all the big organisms. But clearly it's just going to be horrible for all the living things on this planet that happen to have to live through this this fact that the environment's going to become more and more hostile and harder to live in. And it's going to degrade everything's existence. And rational people should say, wow, we really should be a little more energetic about getting realistic about human population, and understanding that the world's going to get it's a very difficult place to live in the future, because not only are people disposable, but now it's going to be even more expensive to keep them alive, and it's not a good combination. They don't have any value, and they're expensive. You see, I'm just saying, that's not good. Alright, so that's probably enough of a video. Probably. And such. Sorry I didn't do anything. I have to make more planned videos, and I've said this, and I'm going to try to do that, and have images and do things with things, but I've just been busy. Lots of projects and things. And you know, the difficult part is this project is strictly dependent on attempting to find some better way to communicate ideas. It's not like I said, the arguments seem pretty easy to make. The fact that no one will listen to them, you know, that's the weird part. That you can't have a fair chance to show, you know, the fact that this is the more reasonable argument, to demonstrate it. So until that changes, it's till I come up with some way to become more productive at communicating. Doesn't really matter, you know, what I'm saying, sort of. So anyway, yeah, that's enough. You know, I've said before, you know, I do have some thoughts and ideas. It's just that I haven't got enough of them to force something yet. To, or whatever. You know, you can't. It's like you don't enter a bicycle race until you've practiced a little bit on a bicycle. You know, I'm just not practiced enough, I suppose I could say. Or, you know, there's just too many unknowns about what kind of track it's going to be to ride, and so you're just doomed to fail because there's no way of anticipating what you're going to need once you're on the road, so to speak. Something like that. But whatever. Rationalization, excuse. Yes. Anyway, until next time, and such, and so forth and whatnot.